I'm really excited about these next 2 weeks, not just because football season has started. That's part of it, but no. I'm really excited because we're going to be looking at what it means to be the church in the lives of the people around us. However, when it comes to what it means to be the church, I think many of us just may be missing out on God's plan for us to have abundant life. What do I mean by that? Well, what if we actually had it backwards? What if in our pursuit of abundant life, we're actually trying to answer the wrong question? What if we are seeking a fulfillment where it can never be found? You see, one of the most frequently asked questions around the world is what is my purpose and meaning for life? Even though this sounds like a very profound question, I think it may actually be a wrong question to ask. So what's wrong with this question? Shouldn't we be asking how to find meaning in our lives? And the answer, I guess I'd say, is, well, not exactly. Not exactly. In fact, there's another question I think would be better than what is my purpose for my life. And I think the better question that we should be asking is, what is God's purpose for his people? You see, I know you're thinking, hey, as a Christian, isn't that basically the same thing? You know, I'm wanting my purpose for my life. And actually, I think there's really a big difference between the two. If you look at both questions up here, you think when I'm asking the question, what is my purpose and meaning for life, I'm so focused on me and what's happening with me that my perspective is actually skewed and slanted towards what I'm wanting in my life. But when I ask God, what is your purpose for your people, then my focus on God is ultimately about him and his plans for what he wants to do. Let's look at it this way. For instance, kind of a 20,000-foot bird's eye view. If my focus and attention is on what is my purpose for my life, then I'm only concerned what's affecting me in my world. Essentially, I've created a bubble around me. You know, we only have so much part of our life. We have like a bubble or a sphere that we can impact and influence. But when I ask what is my purpose for my life, it's like all of a sudden I'm the center of that bubble. I'm the center of my world, of the world that I'm living in. But if we ask the other question, then all of a sudden my attention is on God. And when that happens, we've actually created this worldview that we're looking in where he is the center of that. And everything that I'm doing is to put emphasis and being a part of what he's doing. And so there's a difference in how we're approaching that. You see, if my attention is on God, then I will focus on what he's doing rather than what I want. You remember a long time ago, many, many years ago, I don't actually remember it, but it was a time when people believed that the earth was the center of the universe and that everything revolved around the earth. And eventually they came to realize, no, that's not true. Actually, the sun was the center of the universe and everything revolved around it. What if we changed our perspective in our life and had it to where the sun, Jesus Christ, was the center of everything for us and everything revolved around him rather than us? I think it would change so many things. However, I realized in my own life, I found that with me, I struggle with this a little bit. I struggle because for me, I want to put my own selfish ambition on display for my life. I struggle because it's so easy for me to think about who I am and what I'm doing and what I want so much that it affects the world around me. And so for me, having this different perspective, having this shift of the way that I'm thinking, allows me to not put that emphasis so much on me. In fact, this can lead to a lot of problems. This can lead to issues where I'm so focused on what makes me happy, what makes me feel good, what makes me feel comfortable, that it can lead to problems in marriage, and family, at work, and with neighbors. In fact, every relationship that you have with other Christians, whoever it is affected if our emphasis and focus is on what makes us happy. Because then the energy is put towards us and we leave others out. Today we're going to look at how we can live out and fulfill the purpose God has given us for his church. I believe that we focus our attention on discovering God's purpose for our lives. That in the process we're actually going to be discovering this abundant life that we're actually seeking to find. We can truly see how we can be the church the way God designed for us to be. So to truly begin, we have to answer the question is, what is the purpose of the church? And the first step to knowing the purpose of the church is that we need to understand what it means, what the definition of the church is. One problem is that many people today, we've got the idea, you know, we say it all the time, it's like, hey, you going to church? Yeah, and it's a building. That we've begun to think that church is a building. It's a place that we go to. Definition out of gotquestions.org defined a church as this. It says the word church comes from the Greek word ekklesia, which is defined as an assembly or called out ones. The root meaning of church is not that of a building, but of people. And I think if we begin to understand this shift, that we are the people, as Christians, we are the ones who are called out. So when we think of church and the idea and concept of what does God have purpose for his church, we need to understand that the church are his people who are called out to live this life. In Ephesians 4, I think Paul gives a good example of this and kind of what that looks like. Verse 1 says this. It says, as a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. You see, the calling we have received is to be the called out ones, to be the church to the people around us. Paul is urging us to live out this calling in our lives. If we call ourselves Christians, we must answer that name and begin to live that out as Christians. We want to live that out. Shouldn't we owe it to ourselves to say that if I'm following you, God, if I love you, if I'm seeking you, if you're my focus and attention, shouldn't I do everything that I can to want to live the way God designed for me to live? Shouldn't I put every bit of energy into my marriage, my parenting, and my work, and school, and jobs, and the community, and putting all that energy into living the way that God has for me, and to live out that calling the way in a worthy manner. Verse 2 goes on to say, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. You see, there is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. You see, the key word that keeps coming up in this over and over in this passage is for us to be one together. You see, God didn't create us to do life alone. He didn't create us to do this all by ourselves. He desires for us to be one in unity with each other, with other believers, as we seek to live out this calling to be the called out ones. In order for us to be one, we need to be unified. We need to be in purpose. We must be humble. As verse 2 talks about there, that's pretty, we must be humble. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things for us, and I think that's why shifting the question from what is my purpose in life to what is God's purpose, the energy is not on pride, on what am I going to get out of something, rather it's on God and what is he going to be doing and what is he and being a part of that. And when we do that, that humility starts playing out in our lives. But the first step towards humility towards unity is humility. When you look at it, we think, there is no patience and love and joy and peace and all that stuff without humility. In fact, I know a lot of people say, well, all you got to do is just go love your neighbor. Go love people. And that's true. But how well can we truly love someone if we're not humble and looking before God? How well can we truly love our husbands, our wives, our kids, our family members, people that have been mean to us or hurt us? How can we truly love them if our focus and attention is on ourselves? Because that puts a wall between us and God and other people. Pride and passion break peace. When we have pride and we're passionate about what we want, it breaks peace in the lives of other people. Only pride brings contention in relationships, and only humility can you truly love someone. Only humility truly love. Think about that for just a moment, and think about your relationship with people around you. And when you're seeking to truly love others, that comes out of a sense of humility, doesn't it? It comes out of a sense of I truly want what's best for them, rather than I want what's best for me. So when we ask, what is God's purpose for the church, what we need to make sure we're doing as a body, as a group, as Christians, is that we are aiming for the same target and moving towards the same goal. When we do that, this allows for us to all work together to be the called out ones and be together as one. So what might this purpose or goal be that we're supposed to be aiming for? What might be this target that we're trying to hit? I think one of the way that I've kind of described the purpose of the church, one way it could be described is this way. The purpose of the church is that we will worship God by working together to do the ministry of Christ for the glory of God and the power of the Spirit. That we're going to worship God by the way that we're living, that we're going to work together as the body of Christ so that we can minister to other people. I love the concept and thinking that life is ministry, that my life's purpose is ministering to others for the glory of God, all done through the power of the Holy Spirit working in our lives and Christ living in us and through us. What would this world look like if every Christian began to do that? If just for a moment we begin to see that every Christian was eager to have a life worthy of this calling. I believe that most people would love to live in a world like this, where we'd see relationships restored. We'd always be building each other up. We'd be walking through the hard moments with someone. We'd always have someone there when we were going through those hard moments to encourage us and build us up. And that we'd be working together to help people who don't know who Jesus is to learn more about him.